Today we'll talk about electrostatics. So it's about electricity. Electricity is everywhere around us. Trains, buses, aeroplanes, motorcycles, all these need electricity to run. Human, animals, they need electricity for muscle movement so that they can move. Even we can see because of electricity. Our heart beats because of electricity. So electricity is everywhere around us. Around 600 BC, it was known that amber attracts dry leaves. 16th century onward, more informations were available, people came to know more about it, and around 18th century, Benjamin Franklin, he did a lot of experiments and came up with certain sort of observations or conclusions that there are two types of charges, two types of electricity, he said, without having the knowledge of atoms or the fundamental element of electricity or charge particle rather. So he said that when glass rod is rubbed with silk, glass rod becomes positive and automatically silk becomes negatively charged, and this definitely takes care of conservation of the total charge. Similarly, amber or rubber rubbed with cat fur gets negatively charged and the cat fur becomes positive. It was also known or observed by Benjamin Franklin that there are two types of forces act between them. Positive repel each other, negative repel each other, and positive attracts each other. And there are also some material which can conduct electricity. Later on we came to know that those are conductors. If we bring a conductor in the vicinity of, consider this is a glass rod which has been rubbed with silk and it has positive charge. If I bring a conductor of any material, conductor, the speciality is it has free electrons which can move within the material, and the positive charges or ions, they are held rigidly with crystal lattice. So when we bring this, those free electrons show the tendency of moving towards the positive charge due to mutual attraction, and we see some sort of polarization. So that means the other end becomes more positive and this becomes negative. By induction we can induce charges and things like that. Okay, so if I neutralize this end by connecting it, even if I touch that end of the conductor, these positive charges will get neutralized. So now the originally neutral, which had equal number of positive and negative charges, becomes negative as more number of positive charges get neutralized. So this is how we can create a neutral object to a specifically charged object by transferring some charges. It's not creating charge, we cannot create isolated positive or negative charge. The moment one neutral atom is losing one electron, so it becomes positive. Similarly, if it gains electron, it becomes negative. Okay. The force what we were talking of was explained by Benjamin Franklin, that more the force, that means more the fluid, as he said, there are more number of positive charges. It was French scientist Coulomb who first gave a mathematical relation of the force between two charged particles. If we take two charged particles, this is say Q1 and this is Q2. They are at a distance r apart. What Coulomb came up with based on experimental findings, that the force, I'm using a suffix E, this is electrostatic force, is proportional to the product of the charges. So it is Q1 into Q2. This force is proportional to square of the distance inversely, and combining these two observations we write the equation by introducing a proportionality constant, and we call this constant as Coulomb's constant. Okay, we get this expression which is K Q1 Q2 by R square. Generally we write K with a different expression which is 4 pi epsilon naught 1 by, this epsilon naught is permittivity of the free space. This is a pure quantification. This is a sign sensitive expression. If I write the vector equation, then you will understand it better. So let me write the vector equation. Consider this particle is 1, as I have written suffix 1, and this is particle number 2, charge particle number 2, and I consider a unit vector r2 from 1 as an unit vector in that direction. The force experienced by the second charge, considering both of them positive or both of them are similar, this is going to experience a repulsive force. So this is force on 2 due to 1. Now you see, if both these charges are positive and my unit vector is in the direction from 1 to 2, if I take that and introduce the unit vector to make this as a vector quantity, then I write this as R21 like this. So that means the force on 2 is in the direction of the unit vector. If I choose one of these charges, or if I replace one of these charges with a negative charge, then what happens is this quantity becomes, suppose Q2 becomes negative, I am using a different color for clarity. So if I make this as negative, then what happens, this whole expression becomes negative. That means the vector is opposite to the unit vector R12. So that means we know very well that in that case the force on 2 due to 1 would be in this direction, and it is exactly equal but opposite to the force which I have written there as F12. If subsequently if we introduce one more charge, suppose I introduce, let me remove this dimension. If I introduce one more charge here as Q3, okay, and we want to find out what is the total force on 2 due to the charge 1 and due to the charge Q3. If Q3 is negative, then between Q2 and Q3 there will be an attractive force, and considering that Q3 is closer to Q2 than Q1, I assume the vector, notice the length of the arrow I am choosing is longer than F12, and this is the force I will write as force on 2 due to 3, and this is a vector, this is also a vector. So follow that how I am solving such combination of charges. We take, because Coulomb's law talks about pair of charges, the force between pair of charges, so I am choosing one pair at a time, keeping that particular charge always in my equation, because we are trying to calculate the force on the charge Q2. So I am finding the force on Q2 due to Q1, this is the vector, the force on Q2 due to Q3, and Q3 being negative, so this is attractive. So these are the two forces. When we sum them up vectorially, we get the resultant force, and vector addition you have done in previous class. So this will become the resultant vector, which is the net force on charge Q2 due to Q1 and Q3. This is one of the very important part of this topic, and that's all about Coulomb's law. You must practice numericals using this. You get sometime such type of configurations, like you can think of, I'm just taking one example, that if you get a regular polygon, I have drawn a hexagon here. If I give you a regular polygon and each of these corners are having some charge Q, maybe all are positive or all are negative, and you are asked to find out what is the force here at the center or at the geometrical center of this object. You can see clearly, if I name them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, you can see the force at the center O due to Q1 and Q4 would be cancelling each other. If I consider a positive discharge here, these are all positive, then this is getting repelled in this direction. Similarly, Q4 would be repelling in that direction, and notice my length of the vectors are same. Similarly, Q2 and Q5 will do that, and Q6 and Q3 will do the same. So the net force at the center would be 0. Now you don't get such question, but you might get a question like, this charge is not there. Then what is the net force at the center? And in that case, by symmetry, Q1, Q4 will cancel out each other, Q2 and Q5 will cancel out each other, so you don't need to do all the vectors and then their numerical vector sum, but you can do only for Q6, considering that Q5 is not there. This is the only unbalanced charge which is going to create a force here. This is positive, and considering a positive discharge, you get a force in this direction, which is the net unbalanced force at the center.